Hello there, and welcome to this new live stream in this school management series. Thank you very much for joining already. We are waiting just a little bit for others to join, but until then we'll have plenty of things to discuss. But before we get started, how are you all doing? What's the mood? What's your mood generally and today? Let me just check. Please let me know if everything is okay with the stream. So if you can hear it correctly, if you can see it correctly. I have trimmed down a little bit of background music, so you should be able to hear my voice fairly well, I guess. Probably also some of the background noise. So Gabriel, you're still at work. I remember you from last time. You are from Moldova. I love Moldova. I can't wait to be back there. But I'm not sure exactly when that will happen. Hopefully soon, or sooner rather than later. And yeah, I see. Let me check. So today, you know that I'm streaming from Romania. And by the way, as always, if you're here, just say hello in the chat and let me know where you are watching from. I would totally appreciate that, because it would give kind of like a sense to me on who is watching. Some of you I already know from the previous streams. Some of you are kind of like very regular viewers of this stream, and I thank you very much for that. I totally appreciate that. See here, Jason, good morning from Alaska, USA. Alaska, that's a place I would like to visit at some point, but maybe not in the winter. Okay. It would be nice to meet you in person. Obviously, if I come, or when I come to Moldova, I'll let everybody know. And here we have Nicola from Croatia. Croatia, very beautiful country, very beautiful. Minus 30 Fahrenheit. I'm not sure exactly how much that would be in Celsius, but I guess something around minus 40 or minus 50. Gosh, that's cold. I literally hate cold. Yuri from Ukraine, thank you very much for joining, Yuri. How are you holding up? Also from New York, USA. So this time we have plenty of people from the USA. Guys, I want to do something with this stream, which I think will be kind of like fairly interesting. So you know that usually after each stream, I make the source code available to CodeWrinkles members. So if you want to access the source code of each stream, you kind of like need to join the membership of the channel. You can do it on the lowest possible tier, so you don't need to go to a bigger tier, and you'll see after each stream an announcement on how you can access that source code. And it's on the membership tab on the CodeWrinkles YouTube channel. But today I would like to do something differently, and I would really like to share the source code after this stream with everybody. However, to get there, I need your help. So we will do the following thing. I have here on the screen the current count of subscribers of the CodeWrinkles channel. So the challenge is, if we can get to 23,400 subscribers during this stream, so during the stream, then I will share the source code with everybody. If not, if we don't get to 23,400, we will simply, or I will share it as always with those that are members. So feel free to kind of like share the channel, share this live stream with your friends that don't know about this channel already. I think there's plenty of nice stuff in here, besides the live streams that we have done recently, but also the videos, and I think also shorts. We have plenty of shorts, and I think people might find this valuable, or some people at least might find this valuable, probably some might not, and that's totally fine. That's normal. That's why it's a good thing that we have so many different creators also in the .NET space, that everybody can find somebody that can relate to. So yeah, feel free to share it with your friends, social networks, wherever. And if we get to 23,400, then as promised, we will make the source code for this stream available for everybody. And yeah, I see maybe that's not a good thing. Actually, we went down a subscriber right now. So I guess somebody got very upset about this. So I'm really sorry for that. But yeah, it's going up again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So yeah, let's make sure we get to those 23,400, and I will share this screen from time to time during the stream to understand exactly where we are. Cool. So now that we have this out of the way, that's kind of like a new thing that I wanted to do in this stream. Maybe until some other people will join, let's have some other discussions here. Let's look a little bit in the chat. So what do you have here? So minus 40 Celsius and minus 40 Fahrenheit are the same. So cold no matter the conversion. That's actually cool. I didn't know exactly that this exact temperature is the same in Celsius and Fahrenheit. But yeah, it's something that I probably can't really imagine. So right now in Timișoara, where I stay in Romania, we have 7 or 3 degrees Celsius. I guess you can see it even on the screen because it's basically on the computer there. So yeah, it's kind of like very, very warm compared to Alaska. But Alaska is definitely a place that I would like to visit at some point. That would be great. Cool. Now, there is one other thing that I wanted to discuss with you. So, question, has anybody or have you all maybe watched the latest video where I did that comparison between Blazor and Next.js? I would really like your feedback on that video. So what do you think about it? Did you enjoy that video? Didn't you enjoy it? And why? So, because if you enjoyed it and you think it might be valuable or useful, I'll continue to make similar videos to that where I compare different technology things. And yeah, then I think that might be one thing that would be okay. And also in this regard, I have played quite a lot recently also with Angular. And I'm not sure if you are aware, but Angular also has like what's called an Angular Universal, which is also kind of like an SSR version, let's say, or way of working with Angular. However, if you haven't watched that video, I will leave here in the chat the link to the video. Go watch it after the stream, obviously, or while we are on a break, when we will be on a break. But for now, here it is. Okay. So Gabriel, I hate React. Okay, I can say that I hate it, but we had at work a project, like real project, that we wanted to do with Next.js. Like not necessarily we wanted, but also the customer wanted, and kind of like it was very cumbersome in a few regards. So definitely Blazor has some pros when it's compared to Next.js. I think it has even more pros than cons. Obviously here opinions might be differently, but kind of like that reflects the personal experience that I had, let's say, recently with that ecosystem. And as said recently, I also have played a lot on a personal purpose, let's say, with Angular and with this Angular Universal, which is SSR. And to be honest, I kind of like enjoy Angular more than Next.js and React. However, from my point of view, Angular with this SSR model has one specific problem that I find very cumbersome to overcome. And that problem is that it kind of like doesn't really have this option where you can, let's say, play with different type of rendering modes. Like for instance, that it is everything default SSR, but we can do it in Blazor and also in Next.js. We can say, hey, this component use client. I want this component to have only client interactivity. And in Angular, as far as I have researched and tried everything out, it's kind of like not possible. So if you have SSR, then you are stuck with SSR, which is obviously bad because there are a lot of components, for instance, an authentication service, where you might want to check maybe, I don't know, the local storage, the cookies, you might want to interact with the window, and that's simply put not possible. There are workarounds, let's say, that you can find. For instance, having all the logic for this component initialization in the after render method, not in the ng on init as usual, but still I think that's the big downside of Angular when it comes to SSR right now. However, overall, to be honest, so you need to understand this. So I worked with Angular quite for, I don't know, maybe for 1.5 years, basically every day, like on a real project. But then I kind of like didn't work with Angular at all till recently, till now. And to be honest, I was very surprised that I think Angular really moved in the right direction with a lot of things, like with this new way of creating standalone components and moving away from the ng module thing. I think that's definitely a very, very good thing because Angular became less opinionated. So what I found out actually playing around with all this stuff is that React, because Next.js is actually a wraparound React, but most of the people or most people say, hey, that's how you will work with React applications from now on if you take it seriously, React becomes kind of like more and more opinionated and say, hey, you need to do this exactly this way, otherwise it simply won't work. While Angular, which traditionally was a framework that was very opinionated, becomes less and less opinionated. And it's strange because for, I don't know, maybe like a decade, React people try to convince us that, hey, React is better than Angular because, hey, we are not opinionated. It's just a library. You can use it however you want. But now it turns out that you can't. So they move to a more opinionated version, while Angular moves to a more non-opinionated version, which is kind of like very cool and interesting from my point of view. But Blazor, from my point of view, has the highest flexibility in a lot of different use cases. So if you haven't checked out that video, please do. And yeah, let me know what you think about it, maybe in the comments of that video. Let's also keep up with the comments that we have here. So I think it was regarding this video. I felt it was very informative. It's good to have an understanding of the industry. Okay, all of the technologies and how things are trending. Thank you very much, Jason, for this feedback. I also think it's kind of like very important, and maybe I had a little bit of, I don't know, second thoughts, because I made this channel all about .NET, while basically in my day-to-day work, I didn't work only with .NET, so I kind of like am involved and work with a lot of different other stuff, like for instance Node.js, quite a lot, but even Java, and obviously Angular and React and Next.js. So probably I will look to bring some more, let's say maybe kind of like non.NET related content to this channel, or non.NET related content but that relates in somehow to .NET, like for instance, I don't know, an idea, not a promise right now for the next video, but for instance, okay, let's talk about Angular, but let's see, how do we do authentication and authorization when we have an Angular frontend and an ASP.NET Core API backend? I think that might be, for instance, something that we can definitely look into. So I think I'll try to bring also maybe content that's not only .NET, but it's kind of like around .NET, or what we as developers in this ecosystem kind of like also come in contact with. Okay, so I see here also Jason, but this time Jason Barnes is 15 degrees Celsius in Arizona. Okay, definitely Arizona is the place I'd like to be right now. I don't know, or maybe somewhere in the Maldives, or I don't know, where it's maybe even warmer and there's a nice sea and beach, and, well, ocean actually. Okay, so Gabriel, wow, Angular reached version 17. Last time I worked with it was version 12, I think. I think last time I worked it was version 8. So before I reached to 17. Okay, and Ajmal, hello from India. Thank you very much for joining. So we have also now Asia here just watching. And if you are on this channel right now and watch, please do not forget, just say hello like all the others did, and let me know where you are watching from. That I really enjoy to have this kind of like feeling and understand where people are located. That's very nice, and one of the primary reasons why I like to do these live streams. So hello there, I'm from Bangladesh. Saddam Mosain or Hossein. Sorry if I don't pronounce your names right. I'm really sorry for that. So it's not on purpose. Cool. So I see that we have quite some new people here right now, which is kind of like fun. So before we go into the coding, because we will start to code right now, maybe some of you missed this, but I have here on this other screen, like we have here the total numbers of subscribers, and unfortunately it's going down again. So what I've said is that if we reach 23,400 subscribers till the end of this stream, I will make the source code available to everybody, not only for Code Wrinkles members. So if you think that's a good idea, feel free to share it with your friends, maybe in your social networks, and invite people to join the stream and also subscribe to the channel. And I will totally appreciate that. So if we reach these 23,400, we will, or I will make the source code available to everybody. Cool. Okay, for the last time, let's keep up with what's here in the comment. No, it's okay. I think it's great to see where Blazor fits in the whole web ecosystem. Okay, like using Blazor with HTMX, Alpine, Tailwind. Okay, Tailwind. That reminds me of something. Tailwind. So here's Tailwind, or my opinion or on Tailwind. Obviously it's kind of like a little bit exaggerated and more like a joke, but we need to be aware, like in each joke there's kind of like a little bit of truth in there. So yeah, Tailwind. I'm not a fan of Tailwind, but I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying I'm not a fan of it. That's all basically. Okay. Cool. Here comes the meme. Yep. Ah, James. Yeah, you commented or you saw it also on Twitter, I guess, already. That's nice. Yeah. No, but that's one thing. Like in real applications, when you really use Tailwind and you kind of like, I don't know, add hundreds of Tailwind utility classes on just one single div, well, it obviously it's not optimal from my point of view. So yeah. And the other reason why I don't necessarily love Tailwind, but it's really personal and probably because I'm too old, but I feel it's kind of like to remember or to memorize all these type of utility classes, or to every time check them. Okay, how can I do this? What utility class should I use? That's really not something that fits a 40-year-old, let's say. Until now, Blazor has fewer job opportunities compared to React and Angular. It's a bit frustrating. I'm thinking on switching from Blazor to React. The idea is that obviously Blazor is newer, so you can't compare the. Obviously React is much more popular. Like React is, I don't know, maybe 80% of the market of the front end. But the good thing about Blazor is that it's kind of like easier, for instance, to get started. Like if you want to learn development or if you are new to .NET, it's very easy to just create a full stack web application without the need to learn basically another programming language, or I don't know, paradigms, or I don't know, get familiar with different patterns that different single page application frameworks might impose one way or the other. So yeah, definitely I see there are good things, but obviously I'm not aware. I don't think that there are any positions like Blazor developer. I see it like more, okay, it's a .NET developer, but as a .NET developer, you might develop WPF, you might develop Blazor, you might develop just a regular API. So it's basically, or more or less, up to you. Okay, let me just have a sip once again. And I see a lot of people went away. They just got scared. Also, the current status of the subscribers, it's not really great, but that's it. No problem with that. Is livestream keeps up buffering for 20-100 milliseconds or me only? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this happens, and I'm not sure why, because the feedback that I get from YouTube is that it's an excellent connection. So I'm not sure about that. So please let me know, can you see this live stream in okay condition? Like, do you receive it continuously, or do you always have buffering issues? Please let me know. That would be highly appreciated. Okay, Jason, all is fine for me. Okay. Please also, other viewers, please confirm if everything's okay here or not. Okay, and with this, I think it's time to move over to our code, and let's say basically where we left off last time. So let's kind of like run this application. I think the first time that it runs might be a little bit slower, but it definitely runs. I'm not sure why when I move the browser window that is opened, basically the application just shuts down, and I'm not sure exactly why this happens. It happened to me before, but I really can't understand why. Unfortunately, the browser window opens on the other monitor. Once again, simply shuts down. I'm not sure what's happening. I'm not sure what's happening here. Strange. Let's try again. Maybe the third time is a charm. Okay. Seems now it worked. let's go here. So I'm already authenticated. We have authentication from the first stream basically. And what we worked last time is on the student part, where we have implemented this idea of, well, having a list of students. These buttons for now, they don't do anything, but we have this create student. And here we can, I don't know, Jane, let's have Doe. Let's give it also password that will sure not be correct. I'm not sure why this button is not applied correctly, so that's one thing. Let's maybe make it, let's change the year here to be 2000, I don't know, maybe 6. Let's give it also another day here. I'm not sure though. I guess this is the month. Yep, this is the month. So let's have, I don't know, 06. And let's, I don't know, give here 24. And let's just click on save. And as you can see, obviously the password is not secure. So I get this error from Google. But here I get the students. So we have all the students here. That's what we implemented last time out. We have implemented basically the entire functionality from the front end to the back end. And I think today we need to go further and we need to implement this button. Like when you click here on manage, I want to go to another page, which will be kind of like a student profile page, but a student profile page from the point of view of the administrator, like from somebody from the school that does the management of these users basically. So I probably will have to kind of like create a dedicated page for that. And then the delete obviously should delete the student. And I would say, let's start maybe with the delete, because right now the delete doesn't do anything. Right now this delete doesn't do anything. And also from other streams, we have implemented roles. Like roles here, we can add roles, we can delete roles, so we can simply do that. And by default, all students, when they are created, they have the role of a student. And yeah, they also appear here correctly. Cool, let me just close this right now. Let me also close this, and let's then maybe move over. Okay, all good here. Ishuk Hassan from Bangladesh, thank you very much for joining. Your advice and content help in my job a lot. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. And probably a typo. Yeah, that's basically for the button. Let me check. It was the button. No, not this button. It was kind of like on the create student model. So it is the model that opens. We have button type btn. Yeah, it is. Basically, we don't have the btn class. And we have this btn link. We don't need this. I don't know. Was this added by Copilot? Because I also have Copilot here, so I'm not sure about that. But yeah, I guess that should fix it. I guess that should fix it. Okay, so now we are here, for instance, in this student list component. And in the student list component, we have this button here, which is delete, which right now it doesn't really do anything. Now, there is one thing here with this delete, because I want this component where we have the entire grid, I want to use stream rendering then. Okay, so yeah, I want to use stream rendering, so I don't want to add here interactivity in this component here, because I just want to use stream rendering. And I think what we will do here is we will create a component that will wrap only this button here, and that component will be then interactively rendered by the server. So I don't know, maybe we'll have it here. We have the student list, and I guess where we have the student list, let's add also that button. Obviously, don't take this structure as kind of like the best practice. Probably the buttons should be maybe in a shared folder or something like that. Yeah, I want to have them basically in the same place. Like that's why I have this folder students, and I want to place everything that regards students on this one. Now, the reason why kind of like this button, you could definitely make it generic, so reusable basically for different components, but it's kind of like easier to for now to get started to just implement the button with the logic that it needs to delete a student. So I'll create a new component and delete student button. So let's have it like this. Okay, we will not need this h3. Now if we go to the list here, this is this button, and I guess the div, so the spacing and say that kind of like can remain on this page. Now the only thing that will move here is the button itself. So the markup itself, that won't really be too much. It's just simply just this button here. But we will need to wire this up a little bit and to make this, because this will be right now a child component of the list of the grid view. And then we need, when the delete happens, we need to kind of like notify the parent component that something was deleted, so that it will also be deleted from the list. So we'll have to set up that communication there. But here I want to have here render mode, and I will have here new, but I think I'll need to place it like this. No, I just need an add here. New interactive server. How was it? I guess it's okay, interactive server render mode. Yeah, it's this what we want here. Also on the delete student button. I'm not sure why it doesn't really see it. It sees it now. So it was just IntelliSense not telling me the right thing there. So we have this render mode right now. So this button will now be interactively rendered by the server. So we have server interactivity, which means that in this button we can right now have this on click, and on click we'll have to delete the student. Okay, so this means that that kind of like we will need to pass some information here. This means that we'll need also some properties. So let me just implement this. First of all, let it be private async. Okay, Copilot, just help me out. What async task delete student? Okay, that's nice. Obviously, these methods are not implemented yet, or this one, so we'll need to implement that. Now, the one thing that I would have here is I'll have here, it needs to be public in this case, it needs to be an integer, and it will be student ID, get set, and I'll mark this as a parameter, because the parent will need to pass in the student ID, so that we need exactly what student we want to delete actually. So that's one thing that we will need. Then we'll need the method and kind of like I think it was event callback. Now I worked the previous week kind of like a lot with Angular, and now the event emitter comes to my mind. So work life is getting in the way. I'll be back in a bit. We're waiting for you, Jason. We'll still be here, I'm sure. Thank you very much for joining till now and waiting for you to be back. Just let us know when you are back. Okay. Let me check. Are we still okay? I think we are still okay. Not that many viewers today. Maybe the idea of doing this on a Wednesday was not a very brilliant idea, but I couldn't do it on another day. So by the way, we currently have 23,354 subscribers. If we get to 23,400, I will make the source code for this live stream available to everybody. So if you can help me out and share this channel with your friends or with colleagues and with people that you might think might find it useful, and if we get to 23,400, I will make the source code available to everybody for this live stream only. So yeah, it's not going very well, but I really count on your help with this one. Okay, now okay, so I think it was an event callback, and that's also public. Let's have event callback. The only question is, what do you want to return basically to? I guess we'll just return an integer that represents the student ID. Now the problem is I don't recall exactly if the student ID is actually an integer. I don't think it's an integer. I think it's a GUID because it's the identifier that basically, or it is a. I don't remember that. So student basic info. And if we don't have the ID, I think we need it. Yeah, it's an integer. So it's an integer. So it's definitely an integer. Have you discussed the difference between using event, callback, and other delegate types with Blazor? I don't think I have discussed that. I usually just, usually for this type of communication between components, I just use event callbacks. Do you use anything else, or how do you want to achieve that? Because if you use any other type of delegate, you need to somehow wire them up. The event callback already provides that functionality. Or no, you don't, because you can just simply provide a func, for instance. So yeah, you could definitely do that. But I honestly didn't really investigate this a lot, so I just used the event emitter for, not event emitter, event callback for years now. But I'm open to this idea. If you can explain us a little bit why we should use other type of delegates and what are maybe some scenarios that you found it useful, that would be great. Okay, so it's definitely a student ID, and we can search in this list and remove the student by the student ID. So that's totally fine. So this means that we can have an event callback of int. Let's have on student deleted, because this will be triggered when the student will be deleted, and then invoke async, and then we will just have here this student ID. Okay, with the delete async, probably we'll just need the student ID. I think we'll I'm not sure if we need to pass this, but obviously the client is not implemented yet, so we'll have to start it, but we'll have once again to implement this basically in all our services. So starting from the student service, that will expose the delete method, then to the backend for frontend that would also expose this delete, and then implement it also here. But right now, yeah, I think right now we would be good to go. Let's maybe go to the student list. Where is the student list? Here, student list. Okay, I believe when using lambdas, you need to manually call state has changed. Whereas using event callback, it gets called for you. So this for sure. So I know that if you use event callback, it gets called, because we never, basically in this application till now, we never have manually called this state has changed. Never. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that you could be right here. I'm pretty sure about this. Okay, so here we have the student list. Now there is one thing that we will need to also implement here to wire things up here. So instead of this delete button, right now we will have the delete student button, something like this. And in this delete student button, we need to provide a student ID. And this student ID would be equal to, we have here the student, and on the student we have the student ID. So that's one thing that we need to provide. And then the other thing that we need to provide is on student. Why doesn't I think I didn't mark it as a property, as a parameter, sorry. Yeah. So now that I have marked it as a parameter, I can come back here to the students list, and once again on student deleted, and here remove student from list. That's what we want to call, and that's also what we need to implement. Private void, come on, okay, remove student from list in student ID, because kind of like what the event callback will emit, will send to us, it will be automatically passed in as a parameter to this method. Sorry, as an argument to this method, because when you pass something in, it's an argument. When you define the method in the signature, that's a parameter. So we have student remove, student single. Okay, could work with single. Okay, and then students remove and student ID, and theoretically everything should be fine. So now we have also wired this up, so now everything on the front end, I think it's more or less ready. So we can go back to, oh, so I see. Seems that this stream is not interesting enough. I see more people leaving it, or the day is simply just wrong. Yeah, but I couldn't do the stream on any other day, unfortunately. Okay. Cool. Now, okay, let's implement things. So let me start from the services, and here we have the student service. Here we have the student folders in which we have kind of like this create, display. I don't think I would like to. I have named this folder create, but I could kind of like name it something else that would suggest simply it would create it would contain things that kind of like mutate the state of the application or the state of the student. But you know what? I think I'll create basically the delete outside this. So outside this folder, directly in this folder. And student create controller, but then now we have all these subcontrollers here. I wanted to still use controller, but set up kind of like something very similar to yeah, manage student. That would be a good thing, but then with create, I don't want to rename all my namespaces, but you know what I can do? I can create a new student, because we'll still have to implement all the different updates, and as you'll see, we'll go for a pattern for updating where we'll have plenty of different update methods, not just one big update. I think that's not the way to go in applications. You simply, if you do that, you simply can't just really create an application that has good performance. So let me just create here a new folder, and here manage. And indeed, in this case, we'll have here, maybe let's just have one controller for all the management things, like for the delete, for different updates. We'll have just one. So let me just create a class, manage students controller, that inherits from student base controller. That's a controller that we have already created. And all controllers, basically, it kind of like defines the route for all the student endpoints, basically, or more or less. And it also provides the mediator. And I know people will say, hey, you're using service locator pattern, and that's an anti-pattern. My answer to this is, I don't care. It's not an anti-pattern in this case. We are definitely overusing this word or this concept of anti-pattern, especially in this case. Okay, so we have this manage student controller. It's really similar to this controller that we have here. No, this is not the controller, this is the controller. So you can just simply start and implement your endpoints, because everything that you need is already there. Here we just need to add an additional route that would contain the identifier, but that's kind of like it. So let's go here back to this manage student controller. So let's start implementing this method. So it would be public async task of I. Now I don't want to have it update, but delete. Task of Copilot. Why can't you read my mind? That would be cool if Copilot could read my mind. Okay, delete student. Okay, so here what we'll have, that would be definitely an HTTP delete. And we would also need to have here in the route the identifier ID and int ID. Okay, so that would be kind of like our controller right now for this one. Let me have here another class. This delete student. This would be from the name, as it implies a command because we want to delete. Anti-pattern is an anti-pattern. You know what the problem is with the most anti-patterns is that that even bright-minded people don't agree if a certain anti-pattern is really an anti-pattern or not. So you should see discussions between, I don't know, maybe Martin Fowler arguing with Eric Evans or something like this, or with Udi Dahan on things if they are anti-patterns or not. You know, the problem is that if you ask 100 physicists or physicists, yes, what is the third law of thermodynamics, all of them will give you the same answer. If you ask 100, I don't know, software architectural gurus if service locator is an anti-pattern, you would probably will get 60 different answers. All of them nuanced. Okay, so delete student. This would be an I request. It would be an I request. Will we return something from the I request? Here, for now, we didn't use this result pattern from our handlers, which I used in other live streams, and I kind of like a pattern that I regularly use. But here it's an I request. I think we don't return anything from here. We will not return anything from here using mediator. And this one will contain int, make it public, student ID. I think it's enough if we do it like this. Actually, this could be, we used record for this purpose so far, so let's be consistent. Delete student and student ID, and here we need a semicolon. I usually keys and afterwards I try to refactor. Yeah, that's also my approach. Or actually, not maybe keys, I'm just make it work. So a little bit like it's done in TDD. Like first you make it work, and then yeah, you make it also be performant, look good, and not duplicate code, and yeah, look at all the code smells. But first I make it work and then I refactor it. Sometimes while making it work, it's probably not always also keep it simple. So sometimes I might overcomplicate things, but then during this refactoring, I'll definitely make it simple. Okay, delete student handler, app context. Okay, Copilot, let's see what you have here. Public class. Okay, appdb context, obviously we need this. Oh my god, so it's using primary constructors. Okay. Let's have this primary constructor then. Then what's the problem here is, okay, for request with void, does not implement the interface I request handler, delete student. Okay, delete student handler cancellation to cannot see from I request handler of delete student. Okay, why is this a problem? Highland, I'm late. I hope I didn't miss important stuff. I don't think you missed too many important things, but thank you very much for joining. Today, as it was kind of like a bank holiday in Romania, I started earlier than usual. Exactly, but starting small and making it work. Then you ask yourself if you really need to implement a pattern and to wait twice if the added complexity is actually worth it. I totally agree with that. That's also exactly how I do. So let me, okay, why? No, I don't want to throw just a not found exception. Okay. But why is this a problem here? So we are using a primary constructor. Okay. No, I don't need it here like this. And then I have access to the appdb context, which is okay. But does not have a matching return time of task. Okay. How doesn't it have a matching return type of task? I don't know, did something change in mediator? That also doesn't help. Doesn't help at all. Let me check. Let me see, do I get any hint here? Implement interface. Yeah, let's implement interface. So, task I request handler. What? Handle? Why? So that's the class. I'm inside this class. Ah, so we just need to return a task. We don't need to return a task of unit. Okay. So it seems that probably in the latest mediator version, like in February last year, something changed here and... Okay. Then we don't need to return anything here. And yeah, I guess that kind of like works now. In those cases, I usually hit Ctrl plus dot and implement interface. Then I look for the difference. Yeah, that's actually exactly what I did, but I didn't hit Ctrl and dot. I'm really an old-fashioned guy. I really don't use shortcuts a lot. And I know there are influencers out there that say that you are a bad developer if you don't use shortcuts. So I'm a bad developer. I'm okay with that. You know what? I'm okay with that. If some influencers consider me a bad developer because I don't use shortcuts, I'm totally okay with that. Okay, if student is null, how did we treat, for instance, occasions previously when something was not found in the database? I think actually it's the first time that we have this problem, because for now we just create a new student, and if we just list the student, well, then we return an empty collection of students. And if we create a student, we return the student. So if student is null, you know what? We will not return anything here. So what we'll do, we'll change this into is not null, and we'll move everything here. Okay. Cool. So I guess that's everything that our delete method should do. It should simply just remove the student. That's basically it. So now we have this, we don't return anything. Now let's go back to our controller. So it would be delete manage student controller. So here we have this int identifier. We can have here var command equals new delete student. Okay, and we pass in the ID. Then var result equals wait mediator send. Actually, we don't even need to have this result here. Wait mediator send, and we send this command, and then just we return no content. And guys, in case you are new to this stream and you're watching this for the first time, we don't have any exception handling implemented. So I want to emphasize this once again. I just want to make this application more or less just like a proof of concept. So I just concentrate on functionality. I don't concentrate on any of the cross-cutting concerns. So don't take this like you should do it like this in your applications when you develop for a customer, or I don't know, for your real application that you want to deploy somewhere. You just need to have exception handling. It should definitely be something or should be part of that. So then don't take this as a best practice. It's just a POC right now. We just want to make things work. We don't check, we don't do validations, we don't do a lot of things. So just please be aware about this. Okay, so we have this method right now with delete student, which should be okay. So now it's our backend for frontend that would need to make a call to our student API service to delete a student. So let's move to our backend for frontend. And here we have the student endpoints, and we use refit here. No, let's go to the API client first. So we use refit here, and we just need to provide a new method to this interface, and refit will automatically generate the corresponding or the appropriate HTTP client and make the appropriate call. So, okay, that's something that I could use. But no, I don't want this. It should be just a task. You know what? I see right now that I haven't used the async name here in any of these methods, so I'll keep not using the async suffix. So delete student, it will be a task, and it will have here will get a student ID, or will provide a student ID. Now I think in Refit, is there any Refit expert here? I think we need to specify this. Kind of like is query, yeah, query. No, but because this is not a query, that's not a query. That's from the URL. Does it work by default? Does it maybe work by default? I wonder if it works by default here. I think it should work by default. So I think Refit should know that it kind of like it has the exact same mechanism as the regular. So it looks here, and if the name matches, it's kind of like it will simply just reuse that. So let me check. Are people still here? So yeah, we are 16 here. Thank you very much for joining, to all of you who joined later. Once again, don't be shy and just say hello and where you are watching from. As you see, a lot of other people already have done it, and I totally appreciate that. Okay, so as alias. I think you just need to use as alias if you use different names, but if you keep it consistent, like I think it should do it by default. Okay, Binod, hello guys. Hello Binod, where are you watching from? Okay, so that's basically all my API client that does this. Now in the backend for frontend, I have the student endpoints. So what we need to do here is we need to map another endpoint dot map delete. Okay, so it will be student ID. Okay, delete student, and it produces no content. What do you return? Because yeah, we should return no content. Did I return no content in the manage student controller? Yes, I return no content. Okay, that's okay. If the param name is different, looks automatic otherwise. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So as alias. Yeah. So. Okay. So let me check what did Copilot here do for me. Obviously, I want to move. Actually, why? Actually, in this case, I think I'll keep it like it is right now. Suggested here. So it gets the student API client from services, then away student client, delete student async. But it kind of like that doesn't really return. That I don't think this returns a 204. Shouldn't it be delete? Where exactly? It's map delete. That's how we define it in the minimal API. But no, I think I'll create a method, even if we have only 2 lines here. Let me private static async task, and we'll return a result here. I want to be explicit that I return no content. Okay, so what I'll get here is this iStudents API client. I need an iStudents API client and int student ID. So that's what I need to do here. Okay, and then something like this. So var Here I will await the result, because the result could be maybe a server error, or like a response that doesn't really reflect a success. So I would use then client delete student ID, and then return type results no content. What's the problem with you here? Consent void. This delete student, it's okay. Yeah. But if this throws, then probably we would need kind of like a try catch here. But we'll simply skip this. Skip that. So you mean in Refit? Okay, we'll go to Refit just in a second. I think, yeah, I think I made it as a get. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so here we have this delete student. So it means that here what we'll do in this await is we'll simply await delete student, and here we'll pass in what was the order. It's the client and then the ID, like this. But it's a student client. Okay. With name delete student, and here produces 204. So yeah, that's exactly what it needs to produce. Let's go back to Refit, because Gabriel actually gave us a very good hint that I forgot to make this. Not here, but here. Yeah, obviously it's delete. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So that's definitely okay. So now we have this student endpoint in the backend for frontend that listens to student/student ID and performs delete. So this is what our frontend application, our web application, needs to call. So let's go to our web once again. Let's maybe close this. And here in the web, we have this iBFF API client, which is for our, okay, delete student ID. Okay, that's nice. Task delete student async. And Copilot is not that useless after all. So Copilot is definitely not that useless after all. Okay, so we have this delete async. We have defined it. So now, so here we have used async as the suffix of the names, but in the other services we haven't. So that's not a consistent naming. So that's bad. Don't do this at home. Don't do this in your applications. You know, that's why code reviews are important, because, you know, things like this can happen while you develop, but then they will be usually seen at code review time. So yeah, don't do this at home. Okay, so we have the delete. Now, if we go back to our delete student button, we have the API client. The name API client does not exist. Okay, obviously, because we need to inject it. Inject iBFF. How did we call it? I think it's like this. What? Let me just go here. Yeah. Here we'll need a using web services. Okay, now everything should be fine. Then we have this BFF API client. Let's call it just API client. So now we don't have any error. Okay, so now theoretically the delete should work. Let's go once again through the entire flow. So we have the delete button. When we click the delete button, we make a call to the backend for frontend. The backend for frontend has an endpoint, so we call this endpoint, and basically just gets the student ID from the URL, and it then basically uses the Refit client to delete the student, and this one will make a call to the student service. I mean the API service itself, like the student microservice. Then the student microservice has this manage student controller that will execute this delete student command that will essentially delete the student. So, and when all these responses are then sent back through this entire chain, we just invoke the event callback and we notify our parent. The parent is in this case, where is the student list? Notify the parent that the student was deleted. So when the student was deleted, we send over the identifier of the student. And in this method, we just remove the student from the list of students that we have there. Okay, so let's test it. So let's test it. Let's see. So do you think it will work? Or do you think we'll have some problems here? Okay, this time it didn't break the application when I moved the browser from one monitor to the other. We have students. Now we are waiting to load the students, and here delete. So I'm not sure exactly what happened, but probably we had an error somewhere. Poly, yeah, something's not right. Something is not right. Although this delete was kind of like executed. So the delete was executed. Source. Or the student was deleted. The only problem is that this list was not updated correctly. So the student was deleted. Let me place a breakpoint here. Let's try to delete another student. Let's delete Gabriel. Gabriel, we will delete you because you don't have an email. That's because we kind of like had something wrong when we created your student last time out. So let's just delete it. So it seems we don't hit the breakpoint. It seems we don't hit the breakpoint. The question is, why don't we hit the breakpoint? Why don't we hit this breakpoint? Let me check the delete student button. So on student deleted, invoke async. I mean, we get the student ID because otherwise we couldn't delete it from the database. And the entire deletion would fail. But why does this invoke async not work? So here we have this event callback of integer on student deleted. Kind of like it's okay, so it's I'm a little bit baffled. I don't understand why actually this doesn't work. Why does the event callback not work? Let me place also breakpoint here. Let's run the application again. We'll have to create a student now before we can delete it. Oh my god, what? I really don't get it. So sometimes when I just move the browser from one window to the other, it just breaks. The application just breaks and that's it. Not optimal. Now it didn't break. So let's go on web here. Okay, students. Let's wait for the students to load. Let's have here, yeah. Let's keep this. Though, let's keep that. Let's just change the year here to 2000, I don't know, 9. Password we need to set. And then click save. And the button works now. So the button is okay. So we fixed the button at least. Okay, so we have the student. Now once again, delete. So we hit this. So we have here student ID is 7, which is okay. And we invoke this. But I'm not sure what happens here. Is it maybe because one component is server rendered and the other like interactively rendered and the other component is not interactively rendered? Could this be the problem? But that's exactly the same that we have in the create student, and then basically that works. So basically we invoke this, but it never hits the parent. Maybe something related with the video card driver. Okay. Ah, you mean the application is breaking because of the video card driver? Okay. Okay, I don't know, could be. I definitely don't know what to say about this. But I'm baffled about this one because we have in this create student button pre-render false. This opens the create student model. In the create student model we have exactly the same thing. So this is also server rendered, like it doesn't have interactivity. I think that's why. I don't know. Did we discover here a problem here with, or well, at least a thing that I didn't know about? So if you have a component that's server rendered, like we have the student list, and you have a component that's interactively rendered, like the button, can't you use the callbacks? Don't the callbacks work? Because it seems they don't. Actually, if I think about this, kind of like makes sense. So is anyone aware about this? Is anyone aware about this? Okay, let me just ask Twitter. Have a Blazor full SSR component. Inside of it, I have Steve server component. Maybe you also want to see this, I don't know. Okay, so if I have inside it, I have an interactive, let's say interactive server component. Classic parent child. But here it doesn't, because it's only one. It doesn't invent callback of the work in this scenario. Maybe use also some hashtag Blazor.net. I'm curious what Twitter will say about this. I was not aware of this, but if this turns to be true, then that's a topic for a video. That's a topic for a video, my friends. That's a topic for a video. If that turns out to be true. Maybe something... Oh, okay, there's no new comment. So in this case, we'll need to simply find another way around this. On one hand, I think it kind of like might make sense if this event callback wouldn't work in this case. Because once again, this component student list that's fully server rendered, so it has no interactivity. So it means that everything is rendered directly, but when this button is rendered, I think this should, when this component is rendered, then this button should also be rendered, which should trigger a WebSockets connection. But then don't the subscriptions work with the WebSocket? So I don't know. But it seems like this. So it seems we cannot delete the student here. We need to find an alternate way to do this. Hello from Algeria. Hello Aziaf. Thank you very much for joining. For those of you who are newer to this stream right now, I have for today's streams one challenge. I have here on the screen right now, oh my god, that's the number of current subscribers, and I said that if we get to 23,400 subscribers during this stream, I will make the source code for this stream available to everybody. Otherwise, I usually after each stream make it available only for CodeWringles members. So if you are not a member and you will want to have access to the source code for this live stream, like after we finish it, then feel free to share this channel with other friends or colleagues or whoever you think might find this useful. And if we get to 23,400 subscribers, I will make it available for everybody. So not only for members. So yeah, we are still 40 subscribers short. So yeah, let's see if we can make it happen. Obviously this stream will, I don't know, probably it will last for another 2 hours at least, I think. Because right now we have implemented this delete, so the only bug that we have is that the list doesn't get updated automatically. And I don't want to kind of like waste time in finding the problem here. My assumption is that it might not work because the parent component is SSR and the child component is interactively rendered, and then maybe event callbacks don't work. So I asked this question on Twitter. Like, there are literally a lot of good people on Twitter that follow Blazor topics, and I hope I will get some answers there. And we'll see, maybe until the end of the stream we'll get some feedback on that as well, and we'll find out what the problem might be. But I don't want to get stuck in this, and therefore I would like to continue to basically go to the next step, which means that in the UI, let's maybe start the application and first of all define what is the next step to be done. Now the next step in the UI is that when I click on this manage button, right now it doesn't happen anything. I want to kind of like be redirected to a profile page of the student that will contain kind of like a lot of different information, and that information we should be able to kind of like update basically one at a time. And we'll see exactly how we'll be doing this. So that's what we want to do. So we'll start once again from implementing this manage button, then a new component that would be a routed component, like a dedicated page for the student details, where we'll probably have, I don't know, some layout with also a header with the student information or student photo and things that can be edited. And then we'll implement everything basically also on the backend part. Let me check. Do we have here? Do you have to introduce state or a service to handle the callback to that something exists for this life cycle? That's what I traditionally try to always avoid, to use state, because I don't know, from my point of view, this idea of trying to always use some state management thing is from my point of view a thing that's not so good. It's coming mostly from the React perspective. So at least for applications like even this one that are very simple, the need to introduce state management system basically shows that you have designed something wrong in your application. So if I need to kind of like manage state here through a different service or through different mechanisms, then obviously I think that something is wrong maybe here. Now, obviously in this traditional Blazor server approach, we didn't have this problem before. Cascading params. Yeah, but cascading params are not for this. Or yeah, you can definitely manage state with cascading params, but in our case here, like we already have a parameter here. Like you use cascading params when you have a parameter that you want to cascade to really all the children tree down the road. Like if you have nested children on 10 levels, you have these cascaded params that are available to all 10 children, not only to your direct descendant or to the direct descendant of of the component. So that's literally the main difference between a parameter and a cascading parameter. So right now, if this doesn't work with event callback, which is a regular parameter right now, then it will not also work with a cascading parameter. So yeah, but I still have this kind of like, I'll investigate this afterwards, because we had exactly the same type of setup a little bit previously, but in that setup that we had previously, where is the create student, we had the create student model, and the model is also SSR because we don't say it is rendered interactively. And the parent component is also SSR, and it worked. So we know that it worked in this case. It's basically this method here that adds a student. So we know, we have seen even in this stream that it works. When we added the student, it was added automatically here. So we implemented exactly the same thing, but the only aspect that was different in this case was that the parent component in this case is SSR component, and the child component in this case is an interactive component, interactively rendered on the server. So probably that's the only difference, and maybe the event callbacks doesn't work in this scenario. We'll find this out. So hold on. Okay, cool. Guys, I would like right now to just take a short 10 minutes break, because it's more than 1 hour since we have started the stream, and we'll be back in 10 minutes and we'll continue to work on our student profile to create that profile page and start creating the different update functionalities. So yeah, please stay tuned, go take a glass of water, or I don't know, do whatever you want to do. And in 10 minutes I will be back and we'll continue to work on this. So there's still plenty of time. In the meantime, just remember, if we arrive to 23,400 subscribers, I will make this source code for this stream free for everybody, so everybody can get it. But to do this, I obviously need your help. So if you can share this with your friends, with your colleagues, for people that you think it might be useful, then feel free to share them and ask them to subscribe to this channel. And if we get to 23,400, I will make the source code available to everybody. If not, I will do it like I usually do. I will make it available for members only. And if you want to get access to the source code also for the previous streams, you can become a member. You can literally, for the source code for the stream, you can be the lowest tier of membership possible. So there's no problem with that. You don't need the bigger tier. The lower tier is enough, and you will get access to the source code afterwards. Cool. So this being said, let me, as I said, just take a break, and I'll be back in 10 minutes. Okay, so I'm back. I hope it was not more than 10 minutes. Let's see, are you still there? Is anybody still there? Or did you all fall asleep? Did you all fall asleep? So I have also just announced on Twitter that if we get to 23,400 subs, I'll make the source code for this stream available to everybody, not just to members. And we are still 39 members short. I think this stream will kind of like take another maybe 2 hours. So we still have 2 hours to make it happen. So feel free to help with it. You can share it. You can invite some colleagues or friends or anybody that you think might be interested to just subscribe to this channel and watch the stream or watch the videos. And yeah, that's everything. So if we get 39 more subs during this stream, then the source code will be available for everybody. Okay, cool. So where do we start? Guys, are you still there? Please let me know if you are still there. Let me in the meantime remove this breakpoint. I don't want to hit it anymore, for now at least. Also this one, no, here we don't have a breakpoint anymore. So who is still here? Who is still with me? Who's still with me? Okay. Okay, let me... So we have created this delete student button right where we have this list. But following similarly to what we have done in the students API, create here a new folder with manage student. And this folder will actually then contain let's say the main component for what we'll have here. So Blazor component, how will we create? We'll call this student details. Okay, so this student details component will kind of like contain a lot of different things. But first of all, I want to have it, the page here. Come on, Copilot. Why don't you suggest something here? I don't know. So I guess the link should be students URL. And then it would be a student ID and it would be an integer. Okay. Okay. So that's actually, I think, the first thing that we'll need. Obviously here we'll also want to have an authorize view. Aha, this time it added the using, because last streams, I don't know, Visual Studio, I didn't update Visual Studio, but it had this problem. But I don't want to have this authentication state provider injected right now. So okay, welcome back. Thank you, Gabriel, for still being here. I assume you worked from home today. Okay. Okay, so here we have authorized. I think we haven't created an unauthorized component. For now, we'll just skip this. Okay, and here we'll have the... Why is it formatted so badly? Okay, here we'll have a lot of the details that we have here, and I think we'll have two different sections. which will be the a header section for this student page, and it would be kind of like but what we'll also need here is a parameter with the student ID, because we'll need to be able to pass that to whichever component it needs to, so that it gets basically the student ID. Okay. Let's, I don't know, create maybe a div here to have a spacing. I will see if we will need this later, but now let me try to kind of like do some stuff here. Okay. Guys, I think I will do one thing here. I think I have prepared the source code for this banner already. So I think I will just copy paste the code. Obviously, if you are following along, if you try to code along, that's probably not important, or that's not optimal. Sorry for that. But as said, kind of like one way or the other, I'll make the source code available today, so you can simply check it out. Now in this manage student, I'll have here a new component. I'll have here student details header. Okay. And in the student details header, I have a section. What is happening here? What is happening here? So that would be kind of like the source code. It's a little bit more complex, and that's why we have also a placeholder for the avatar. For now, we have placeholders like for the name and for everything basically that we have right now. So we will need to get the student details here. Okay. Probably we'll need to get the student, and let's also have here a student, another component. Student details. I don't know, let's call it body. I don't really have any other idea. Let me just check here. Margin top 1 rem. Okay. Also for this one, I have prepared a source code, so I'll just use it here. For now, everything is hard coded here, like the address and everything for the student and the different details. Now, the one thing that we will still want to do is to add a bunch of different overlays. Let me just maybe to wire everything up together so that I can run the application, so that we have also a visual understanding of what I want to achieve here. So if I have an authorized, I want to have here this student details. But I think it's okay like this, so I don't need everything here. There's the student details, and the student details, on the other hand, where is it here? No, this is the student details. So in the student details, we'll have the student details header, and we'll pass in the student ID. Although I think we'll kind of like maybe refactor this a little bit. Maybe I want to go for this pattern, like where we have smart and dumb components. Like this parent component would be the smart part of the equation, and it will simply kind of like get the student, and then it will just pass the student to all the other components that kind of like are reused here. So it will have this header, and it will have this student details body. On the student details body, I think we don't have this parameter. No, we don't have it. So let me just remove that. not from here, but from student details. I'll just remove this. And I think we don't have it also on the student header, so we'll do this later. Actually, before we go into the updates, we need to implement all the API methods to actually get the information about the students, so that we have the things that we need to display basically. Let me check if anything happens here. So are people still watching? So many tabs open. Yes, there are a lot of tabs open. That's not good. I know. Is there a shortcut to close all the tabs? I'm not sure about that, but I'm sure there is. I love how clear and detailed your explanation are, dude. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for joining the stream, and let me know where are you watching from. I usually like to ask this question to everybody that's joining, and I would love to know where you are watching from. I would literally love it. Now, for making everything work, we need to also go to the layout and to add maybe a new... No, actually, we don't need to go to the layout. We need to go to the student list. Thorstenrecht, Germany. Where from Germany? Hallo und Dankeschön. Ich glaube, ich spreche auch ein bisschen Deutsch. Bin ich sicher, aber. It's a long time since I haven't spoken German, so I'm not sure. Probably my German is very rusty. But, well, I definitely used to speak fairly well, at least. Köln, Cologne, nice city. Very nice city. Very nice area. I think I'll pass this summer through Köln or near. I'm not sure if I'm stopping there, because my plan is on the summer vacation to do basically a road trip in Belgium, and on the way from Romania to Belgium we'll pass very near, I guess. So yeah, you are speaking. Yeah, but there were only some very basic phrases, so it's not that it was something very complicated. Okay, so we need to go to the student list, and here we have this manage button. But actually, what if we just avoid to send here another... Now the problem with this button is that it's also not interactive. So it's also not interactive. So the problem here is, in this case, we need a component like we have for the delete student button, also for the manage button, and we make it interactive. And then we click on the button, we will basically be redirected to this page. Otherwise, if it's not interactive, we cannot have this on click. So definitely. Okay, so let's so this was in the main students folder. Let's add here a new class, not class, Razor component. Manage student button. Okay, so that button will be very similar to our delete button. Let me check our delete button. So what we have here. Okay, we need this one. We will surely need... No, we won't need this client here. So let's just click change the render mode of the button. Like this. And then we can just go to the student list and take everything, or take the button from here and just move it in the manage student button component. Be something like that. And the only thing is, on click, like this one. Okay, different options even, such as close all but this. Okay, and what would be the shortcut to close all but this one on which we are right now? Helper element button requires a value. I don't have the value, obviously. Okay. Open student details. Aha, it's new that I will need this one. Okay, so we need to inject the navigation manager. What? Why do you do this? Navigation manager. Yeah, and let's call it navigation manager. Okay, so now we have it. Okay, yeah, I'm students and student ID. The only question is, how do we actually get the student ID? Here we just need the property. So here we just need the property parameter. Sorry, obviously that would be a property technically, but from Blazor point of view, this is a parameter. Since it is a parameter, it needs to be public, and then public in student ID. Okay, that's what we need. And that's here is the URL, and we will just simply navigate. So when we click on this button, we will just navigate to this page. So that's basically everything that we need here. Now, the only thing that we need to do in the student list is to have this manage student button. And here, student ID equals, and it would be student.id. Like this. Okay, and now theoretically the manage when you click on this button, it should redirect us to this component that has a header and that has a body. So let me run the application and see if everything is okay. Let me know if everything's okay. Is the background music too loud? Or is it okay? Oh no, why? I clicked on close. No, why did I do this? Okay, so our application is here. Let's go on the web part. Let's go on students. And here we have this manage. Yep. So it's something like this. You see that we have kind of like this header section where we have some type of information that we take from a student, obviously. Then we have personal information and we have relatives. We don't have any relatives right now. And then we have this address. Everything is hard coded right now, but kind of like we will need to get all this information to be displayed, and we'll need to get them from the student service. So I guess that's basically what should happen. Now, the only thing is with this update is that when we click on update, we want to open basically like a model, the same that we did for create. So we open a model in which we'll have kind of like a form that will contain only what needs to be updated for the personal information, like only the name and the email, for instance. Even though I think we shouldn't be able to we can update the email, because it's kind of like the administrator can update it if the student changes its email address. So yeah, but the idea is that each time we click on an update, we open a new model and we do updates in a very atomic manner. So that's from my point of view. I even did a video on this concept. Like, usually when we think about applications, we usually have one update method in which we try to update everything. Now, that really leads to a lot of different problems, and ultimately it will lead into the fact that the applications that you create will have huge performance problems when it comes to update larger things that have more complicated logic or validation logic and things like that. So it's something that we need to avoid, and instead we need to do updates in small chunks. So here I simply change this information in updates, like for instance, updates only the personal information, updates only to the address, updates only to the relatives, for instance. And regarding the video with why actually this, I think that really this approach is very, very important. And literally at work, we kind of like had this problem with customers' applications, and the way that we managed to solve these problems with like performance problems and make everything be more responsive was simply by refactoring just one very big update method into several different tasks that would kind of like update only parts of that. And if you're interested, the video for that is this one, so please feel free to watch it after the stream. Don't watch it during the stream, watch it afterwards. If you didn't watch it, I think it would be I'm not saying you need to definitely do this, that's the only way to do things, but I'm saying that I found from my experience that it kind of like really is a very nice approach that would allow you to write more performant applications. And also, if you go to Facebook or LinkedIn and you try to update your profile, you will see that it's exactly the same. You literally have dozens of different small sections that you update independently. You don't update big sections or big portions at one time. So it's kind of like a type of user experience that's already there, basically out there. used by very, very big companies that invest millions of dollars in research on UX. And yeah, that's why I don't think the argument, yeah, but users don't like this. I don't buy that. I don't really buy that. Like if companies like Facebook or LinkedIn or yeah, big companies that invest a lot of millions in UX and researching UX, if they think that kind of like this is the best way to go, then I think then probably users might actually be okay with that. Okay, so let me close now. So the next thing that we need to do is then obviously get the student information. So we need to get student information. Let's check. So yeah, basically nothing changed with the subscribers count, so we still need 39. Now we still have some time, but we still need 39 subscribers to reach 23,400, and then the source code will be made available to everybody. Let's see. Okay, and I see a lot of viewers also got bored. I'm sorry for that this was not entertaining enough, but I'm thankful to all of you who really are here and that stay put for so long and that get basically also to interact in the chat and ask questions and get in touch with me. I totally appreciate that. I totally appreciate that. Okay, so fact is we need to get student details. So we'll start once again from our student service. Okay, here we have display, and here we have the students controller, where we have kind of like list of students, and here we return just the student basic info. The student basic info just contains kind of like the student ID, the student roll number, the first name, the last name, the email, the date of birth, and the age. Now, for the student details and the things that we want to update, we surely cannot use this information, because when we want to watch or view the details for a student, we need to see more complex information, like also the address, like also the relatives. So we'll definitely need a new view model or DTO for that, if you want to call it DTO. I'm fine with that. You can call it whatever you want. Let me just check. Okay. So let me go to the students controller in this case, and let's start from here. So what we want to do here is we want to have public async task of action result, and that would be get student details. And here we'll just need an identifier, but like this, not if, ID. Not if, but ID. And here, that would be obviously an HTTP get, and that would also have obviously a new route, and the route would also contain the identifier. So if we do a get on this one, then we'll have this one. Now, this one gets student details. Where did we define the student basic info? Okay, so we have a record, but where exactly is that? Okay, here is also manual mapping in this one. We'll need to check also our domain model to see what information the domain model contains and what information does this, or what information from that we actually want to return. But in which file am I here? It's student basic info. Okay. So I have created the student basic info, which is this one. Yeah. So it's this one. You know what I wonder right now? Why didn't I create this piece? Because that's basically what we return to the API. So why didn't I just create this, for instance, in this list students? Yes. Because for create, no, because I said that we want to reuse the student details. Now I remember. So the reason was that we wanted to reuse the student basic info, in several different parts. That's why I have placed it here basically under the students folder directly with the student base controller. However, in this case, what we want to return is student details. That's kind of like very specific to the action that we want to perform, which would be to get a student by ID. So I think I'll create a new record here. Public record student details. Okay, now I don't know exactly what I want in this record, but we'll check because I don't remember exactly what we have in our domains. So let me check. So what we need from here, we'll definitely need the ID, because when we'll perform updates, we need to pass the ID to know exactly what we need to update. So we'll definitely need this one. Roll number, that's not something that I think we will need. In the student details, we don't do anything with it. First name and last name. That should be part of the... when we edit basically the basic information or the personal information, the email. So first name, last name, so ID, first name, last name, email should be there. Date of birth, I don't think we have that in the UI so far, but maybe we'll add that at a later point afterwards. But then we will also have to include a date of birth. I mean, if you edit once, maybe you have edited it wrong as an administrator and you want to change that. Maybe you have the wrong day or the wrong month or the wrong year. So yeah, probably we'll have to add that to the UI, but we'll create a dedicated section for that probably, or we'll add it to the personal details. Let's say age we don't need. Phone number, I don't think we have a way to edit a phone number. And for phone numbers, I kind of like would like to, let me have the address and the relatives. So we definitely need to return ID, first name, last name, email. Let's also date of birth, phone number, address, and you know what? Let's basically return mostly everything except the age and the roll number. So that's we don't want to return. So int student ID, string first name, string last name, string email. Okay, I think I forgot. ID, first name, last name, email. I said date of birth, so let's also do the date of birth. Where is this? Student details. Okay, let's just maybe move on a new line. Date, time. Date of birth. Okay, but then here we'll need to create also view models, I think, for the address. Or I think we will just be able to reuse this. Phone number, then address and relative. We'll check that because we'll probably need to create some details for that, depending on what we have. If we can reuse, if we want to have the address like is in the domain, I will just not create a detail only for that purpose, just to have the exact same properties. But if we have, let's say, two properties that are not exactly the same, then we'll have a dedicated detail for that. Okay, so it would be phone number. Let's also have, you know what, let's get all the details and we'll see how we update the UI afterwards. It was student. No, where was it? That might actually be nullable. Student phone number. Let's go back to student and check again. So we have this address, which might be nullable. So this address has an ID. I don't think we need the ID. There's a street number, a city, state, postal code, country, student ID, and no, these ones we don't need. Okay. So I think we'll just need the street number, city, state, postal code, and country. I guess that's all that we need. We don't need the identifier because we don't update the address directly in the database. It goes always through the student. Kind of like a little bit if like the student is an aggregate root. I mean conceptually, like we haven't defined it as an aggregate root. So Gabriel, are you still watching? Are you still with me? Let me check if you are still here, because it's a little bit quiet in here in the chat, so it was usually more chatty, but it seems that everything should work, and you are still here, all of you, for which I am very, very thankful. So Gabriel, if you are still here, then just let me know. Okay, so let's also create an address. Where was that? It was on the public record. Let's call this address details. So here we said that we don't need the identifier. I'm old, I forget. So street number, city, state. Let's take them one by one. Street. No, it's int. Street number. City, state, postal code. No. Let's move on another line. Gabriel, I'm waiting. What is the shortcut to close all tabs except the current one on which I am? Because you said there are these shortcuts. Are you having dinner? Enjoy your dinner then. Sorry to disturb you. Sorry to disturb you. Okay, so postal code. So that's the address. And the country. So that's the only other thing that we need. The country. Like for managing the address, we'll do also from that details view that we have created, but probably we'll have to adjust it because we should be able to kind of like we'll have the opportunity to add an address to the student. So that would kind of like be nice. Okay, but I guess we are done for now with the address. So that's what the address is. And now what is the relative? So is guardian, and I think that's basically if the relative has, let's say, I don't know, it's the tutor or the official guardian of a student, which is a minor. So that's kind of like is true or not. I guess that might be an information that might be useful, but not in the context. If I'm an administrator, I am on a student and I want to add maybe a relative to the student. Or maybe it is important. So yeah, probably we'll need this property, we'll need this first name, last name, and then this relationship to student. However, in what we return from the API, right click on the tab. Okay. Close all tabs. Okay. Close all but this one. Boom. Thank you very much. I thought there was a shortcut for that, like a keyboard shortcut, but that did it. Thank you. That cleaned things a little bit up. Okay, so we have this relative type. Now the idea is it could be mother, father, aunt, uncle. I think we went a little bit over. Maybe this should be guardian, not tutor, because we have his guardian. But then we actually don't need this because we have the property. brother, sister, because students can be kind of like also siblings. But you know what? Let's try to keep it a little bit simpler for now. Let's just have mother, father, brother, and sister in the relative type. Now, the only question that I ask myself right now is if when I return from this student microservices, do I want to return an enum, like the value, the numeric value of the enum, or do I want to return the string? Now, that's kind of like a very classic example where we theoretically each microservice, or the way I want to work with microservices usually is I don't want to share any data between them. So each data for each microservice should be totally independent. That's why I usually don't like to have projects like common, in which I place things that are common. When you have microservices, like real microservices, from my point of view, you shouldn't have common things. Except maybe if you define what's an aggregate root and what's an entity, what's a value object, if you go full DDD. Obviously, that's something that you would place, but I would name that project something like shared kernel, because that's the naming that's also used by Eric Evans in the domain-driven design book. But other than that, I don't really like to have common or assemblies called common, in which I have, for instance, things like relative type that I can then use in all the projects. That's kind of like that's how I basically bind all the microservices together. So the only thing is basically the only way that the microservices should expose data should be through an API contract, not through reusing types, from my point of view. Now, the question is, the contract of the API should be here an integer that defines a relative type, or it kind of like should be a string. But in that case, all other services that reads this kind of like would probably need to translate that to something like yeah, that's I think the way that I'll do it for now, I'll return the numeric value, and I will just create a relative type basically in all services. So this will allow me to kind of like have them decoupled. So if I want to change something in one service, obviously if the API contract changes, like what I returned from the API changes, obviously then other services would also need to change that. But other assemblies, other services won't directly need to work with the relative type that I define here. So I define their own. They then have the option to evolve independently if I want to evolve them independently at a later point. But for now, I just create here just a relative type. Let me go. It was in the create student controller. Not create. It was in the term student controller. Student info controller. How did I call? It's students. Okay. So it would be public enum. Okay. It already allows me to do this. So I'll have this enum here. Then I'll have this record relative. Now for the relative, what I want, I don't care about the identifier of the relative right now, or at least I don't think. I care about the relative identifier. I don't care, or I care if it's a guardian, string name plus name. Relative type, that's for sure something that I care about, but I collection of student, no, that's, I don't need this. Once again, this will be what I will return here. Let's maybe make it explicit from the name that it will be a student relative. So it's a relative, but it's strictly related to what I return here as a student. So it would be something like that. And now that I have all of this, I can go back here to student, and the student details will then also contain some address details. And And the student itself, it will have an collection of relative, student relative. Okay, and this would be relative. Okay, so now I have this student. Now I have this student stuff. Okay, let's check the number of subscribers. It's changed a little bit. Okay. So now we are only 36 subscribers short. Once again, if somebody joined recently and doesn't know, the idea is that if we get to 23,400 subscribers, I will make the source code for this live stream available for everybody, not only for members. So you can definitely help with that. And if you aren't a member and you want to get also access to the source code, feel free to share this channel with your friends, with your colleagues, in your social networks, wherever you think there might be people that might find this interesting. Share it with them and ask them to subscribe. And if we get to 23,400, I will make the source code available to anybody or to everybody. Okay, let's then go back. Now, the only thing that we will still need to do here, this student details, that's actually a little bit more complex than that. Here we'll need to basically define a mapping. What did I do? Public static will return student details from student. Okay, thank you very much, Copilot. Let's see how we can do that. Okay. Let's maybe move these things a little bit. Okay. So we have this student ID. But no. Okay, yes. No, it's okay. But they... okay, something happened here. No, it didn't happen. Okay, so we get here a student. Student's domain. So that's the student that we get. And theoretically, when we do the EF core query, we could do a projection directly to this one actually. Then we can, but then it wouldn't have this one. So yeah, let me just as I said, let's make it working and we'll see how we refactor afterwards. Right now I will go this route. So we get a student here and we return new student details. Basically that's a factory method, and I will have return the student ID, student first name, student last name, email, date of birth, phone number, and then address details. Now the thing is that for the address I need to do exactly the same thing. So I need to have a manual mapping from the address like it is in the domain to public static address details from address. So it's definitely something like this, but I don't like it how it is right now. Okay, so that should be the appropriate spacing. Let's say I have here Ross. Thank you very much, Ross, for joining. Hey, Wrinkles. In render auto mode, the first use is WebSockets. When they navigate to a new page on reload, the current page only then will it be VASP. How do you handle WebSockets disconnects? Yeah, that's actually a great question. There's a way to handle it, and there's also in the Microsoft documentation, which is called stateful reconnect. And kind of like you need to create basically a memory stream that would kind of like remember the state of the components, and then you can create a stateful reconnect when SignalR can connect again. So that's how you would do it. It's not that straightforward. So it's not really something very easy, but the way that it is in the documentation kind of like works. So that by Steve. Yeah, I'm not sure if Steve Sanderson wrote that documentation. It could be definitely. But I have used in a regular Blazor server this stateful reconnection from the documentation, basically in applications that we did run on production. However, in one application that we run on production, we kind of like used an Azure Signal R service, not just the regular Signal R that we have in ASP.NET Core. But I don't have any idea about how to handle that except for the stateful reconnects. If anybody has another idea, then just let me know. That would be cool. That would be totally cool. Thank you very much, Rose, for joining, and thank you very much for the question. Okay, so now we have these address details, and then we just return the street number, the city, the state, the postal code, and the country. Okay, so that's kind of cool. And then student relatives, select relative from relative to list. Okay. So it means that we need also to implement for a relative the exact same thing. And public static. Okay. Relative relationship to student. What is the problem here? Because the student relative has a relative type. And this is also a relative type. What's the problem with this? Student, it is a relative type. Because the relative type. Actually, we have called them. That's a problem. So the relative type here is the relative type from here, but in the student or in the address is the relative type from the domain. So you know what? We'll get rid of this, and we'll just use the enum from the domain right now. Return that. Domain student. Yes, exactly. That was the problem. Okay. So now if we go back here, relative, what's the problem? Is from relative, and we need to pass in a relative. No, from it's student relative here. Yep. Now I think it should work. Now the only problem that it complains here is about a nullable reference type, I guess. Yeah, possible null reference argument. Because the email, it could be null, and here from address could also be null. Okay, that's correct. But no, the student won't be null if we are here at that point. But address can definitely be null. I can't do it. So I can't just use the exclamation mark because address is nullable. Definitely is nullable. So I think we need to make this explicit. Like in the student details, we need to specify that address details might be null. Need to specify that the email might be null. Okay, I'm kind of like stuck. Possible null reference argument for parameter address in address details, add details from address. Okay. Yeah, theoretically I need to, it's a static method. Yes, it's a static method. It's a real simple factory method here. But yeah, probably we'll need to refactor this at a later point to maybe non-static methods, and then we can use directly projections from DB context to project directly to these records or entities. So that would be kind of like something to do. But as we started with this way in the other streams, I continued the same way also for this one. But definitely that might be the better approach even. But how can I get rid of about this nullable reference exceptions or possible null references? Because this student address on student is obviously nullable. We need to make it here nullable. And then maybe, I don't know, very simple thing. If address is not null, then simply return, but then we need to return something else. And oh, and that's the point where we would actually need because we can map this address details. Yes, we have marked this as nullable here. That's okay. But now if we return this like that, but then we return null. Okay. Yep. And then I guess we can also simplify this because we don't really need this. But then how do I pass the student? So I need this. Let me check. What does it suggest to me? Fixed formatting. Okay. Lambda expression can be removed. And it will automatically pass it. Okay. I was not accustomed to do it like this. But yeah. Okay, we still have an exception somewhere, but I think not here. I think on the controller. So I think right now for the address details and for the relatives, I mean relatives will then return an empty list if we don't find any. So I think that's okay, having an empty list. So I think we are okay with that. So now we have the controller. Okay, so to implement the controller, we'll also need to implement the query for that. I never think to use that way for removal of lambda expression. No, I also did kind of like it's, I'm accustomed to kind of like use it regularly with it, but yeah, if it's suggested, probably it's something newer than I was familiar with, let's say. And yeah, but obviously it kind of like looks shorter, but I don't know, kind of like if you don't know exactly how this works, then you don't understand that actually a relative is passed here. So pros and cons. Okay, so we need here and class. We'll call this get student details. Okay, so first of all, this will be just a record because this will be the this will be the mediator query. So I get student details. Now the only thing that we need here in this constructor is int student ID. It will inherit I request, and no, I request. I want the mediator I request. Please edit. Yep. What if Copilot could automatically add you the usings? Feature request for Copilot. Automatically add the usings. That would be kind of like great. Probably there might be, it's a little bit harder because there might be ambiguities that doesn't know exactly what to use, but based on what you have used already in the project, I think it could make itself kind of like an idea of what needs to be done. So what I want to return here is student details. That's the class that I have defined previously. Then I like to keep, like say the query or the command and the handler in the same file. So I'll have, but this time I didn't implement it using the primary constructor. So remember for the delete, resharper doesn't, no, it doesn't do that automatically. You have to press Alt Enter. So it doesn't automatically add. Like I use resharper a lot, and I like not necessarily resharper, but I use JetBrains Rider a lot. So except for this stream, I mostly use JetBrains Rider also when I work and also for the videos. But I think you still need to press Alt and Enter. Probably there's a shortcut also in VS for that. So let's transform this into a primary constructor by ourselves. By doing this kind of like we also exercise primary constructors. So I would like you to have, but why repository? I never used a repository here. I gotta go pilot. Why did like you did this right earlier today when we implemented delete, but now it's totally wrong. Get student details. Now that's the class. So here in the constructor, we want to have an FTB context. Let's name it empty context. Like this. So theoretically, it should be injected. Let me maybe just move this here. And I think this needs to be refactored. So I would have here context, put students, include address. Okay. Why do I have here? Could be found. Are you missing using? Probably there's one Microservices framework core. So include address. Okay. Include relative. Then include siblings. I don't think I need this one. No, I don't need this one. I don't need that one. This add include can go away. I think these are all the includes that we need. There's no tracking because it's just a query. We don't need to track anything here. First or default async, request student ID and cancellation token. Okay, so I guess we have a student. DM, hello. Do you know how to do the interactive server authentication without entering SSR account login? For example, login model in an interactive server. You shouldn't do that, because in that case you're exactly in the same scenario where you have login for a Blazor server. So in order in order to perform authentication, you need access to let's say reliable instance of the HTTP context, and you cannot have a reliable instance of HTTP context if you are using interactivity. You can have a reliable instance of HTTP context. Did I say DB context? No, that's wrong. HTTP context. So you can have only a valid instance of HTTP context either if you're doing SSR or if you are doing it in a Razor page. So I would definitely not recommend that as well. Definitely. Do you not need to set context to a private member field in the constructor? How's that compiling? That's the nice thing about primary constructors, which are or is a new feature in C# 12. It kind of like works exactly or similarly to what we have in records. Like here in records, that's basically primary constructor. Now, previously to C# 12, this was not available on a regular class. But what it does, it creates a field basically. When the code gets lowered, it creates a field, and then you can basically get access to that field. So you can simply just reuse this. Before I could do authentication with my own provider just fine in .NET 7. Okay, you could do, I'm not sure, but I wouldn't recommend it to anybody. You have potential for a lot of bugs there that will be very annoying to diagnose and to fix. So it's okay if you did it and if it works, but based on the experiences I had so far with running Blazor applications, I wouldn't do that. I only have authentication in a context or in a scenario where I can rely on the HTTP context and where I am sure that the HTTP context contains valid values and not outdated information. Yeah. I honestly am surprised that C# Fritz tries to do it this way. It's like I literally have at least 3 videos on this channel where I talk about all the problems that you can have, or why do we actually have these problems, and why you actually need to do authentication. Obviously, it's related to Blazor server in that case, with Razor views. But I was, yeah, I'm surprised that C# try to do it like this. Like that's a total no-go. Don't. I wouldn't recommend this to. I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. Obviously, here we could. It could be that we don't have a student, and then it would return null, or this will be null. Obviously, as said, we kind of like skip this right now. So just tell the compiler to shut up and say that it will always have a value. That's obviously not the right way to do it. Like this, here you would have to do validation. You need to have kind of like maybe your custom exception that you would throw, or a result class then in which you will throw some validation errors or some application errors that you say, hey, this student is not available, or kind of like return something empty. But for now, I just want to, as said, concentrate on the functionality. So I'll just keep it like this. Students include first or default async. Yeah, but that would also throw an exception. But yeah, in that case, it would throw the exception if it doesn't find it. But yeah, I think I'll keep it for now. But note that there's limits. So that's obviously, we shouldn't leave it like this for something that we write for production. That definitely not. Okay, so from student, and then we transform it. So we have, I think we don't need anything else from this query. I think that's basically everything that we need from this handler. So we can go back now to our, not delete, but in the student info controller. So here we can have var query equals new. How did we call it? Get student details, which is the query, and we pass in the identifier var result equals await mediator.send. That should return us the result, and then we have here return okay result. Cool. Now the only thing that I want to do here is let's add a produce this response type. This one here, it would be not an array of student basic info, but it would be student details. Okay. And I think for the student service, we are done. So I think we can move over to our backend for frontend. Let's see, is anybody still watching? I see that there are still people here. Thank you very much for hanging on. We still have plenty of plenty of things to cover. Even though I think we are already streaming for 2 hours and a half. So that's quite a bit. That's quite a bit. But we'll keep streaming right now. Let's see, did we change? No, it's still the same. So once again, if we get to 23,400 subscribers, I will make the source code for this stream available for everybody, not just for members. And you can definitely help with that if you didn't do this already, by sharing this channel with friends, colleagues, or whoever you think might be interested, and make sure they subscribe to it. You can even post, I don't know, on social media, on Reddit, on Twitter, wherever you are. You can definitely do that. Help me out, and I will help you out by providing the source code, even if you are not a member of the channel. And I would totally appreciate it. Okay, so let's move on to the backend for frontend. Now, in the backend for frontend, we will reuse a lot of these same classes that we have, but due to the same reason that I already have explained, I like my services to be able to evolve independently. So right now, the models that we return from here will correspond exactly to the models that we will return from the backend for frontend. But to have them decoupled, I will add dedicated classes in the backend for frontend. So definitely we'll have that there. Okay. So let me go to the backend for frontend. Okay, here we have these student endpoints. Now in these student endpoints, I think we have in this iStudents API client, that's actually here where we created all these records. So public record create student basic info, pagination options, but here I think we'll need also the student details return type. So if I go here, I think I can just simply reuse this So I'll simply reuse that. Okay. Obviously, okay, I don't have address details. Actually here, no, actually here I don't need. The only thing here is I don't need the mappings here. Because what I get will already be address details. String. So I don't need here the mappings. Because the student service will return me a student details that will already contain everything. So I don't need to map anything here. Now the only thing that I will need to do here is also add the relative type enum that we have. Yep, it would be this one in this case. So now it would be okay. So everything should be fine right now. Everything should be fine. Is that using Refit? Yes, we are using Refit. We are using Refit as an API client. Your videos are good. Nice to see you live. Yeah, I started to do lives, I guess, in December, and I definitely will continue that. I also think about other projects, maybe to do more lives. Because I think I enjoy to do lives more than kind of like working on videos. Like, I also obviously enjoy working on videos a lot. But I have also a lot of other plans for the Code Wrinkles ecosystem that involves kind of like a lot of work. And working on videos kind of like, it takes quite some time, like way more time that it takes like 3 hours to stream. It would take me maybe maybe 8-10 hours, but maybe even more in some for some videos to create a video. So yeah, we'll see. What is your job? Software developer. I'm a software developer by heart, let's say, but if you kind of like ask me for the job that I'm doing, in the company I'm right now, it's called a technical director. And as technical director, I'm kind of like responsible for the delivery, for the technical part of the delivery for several different projects. And besides that, also I'm responsible for different initiatives within the company. Like for me, in my case, I take care about the different educational initiatives that we have in Amdaris, the company that I work with, like internships, mentorship, and a lot of other stuff. But yeah, so that's why I kind of like get in touch with a lot of code. I don't write a lot of code, but I'm definitely, if things go wrong on projects, then I'm definitely the one that everybody basically calls. So I'm fairly exposed to, let's say, the problems that you could have, or that you could have during technical director, like a CTO. No, I'm reporting to the CTO basically. So yeah, I'm reporting to the CTO. It's a big title, yeah, probably, but I don't know. It's I kind of like enjoy what I am supposed to do a lot, because I take care about different projects, and I get to do a lot of other stuff around. But I also get in touch with a lot of colleagues and people, help them, mentor them, and kind of like it's kind of like fun. Okay, so here we have this task student ID, and then we get a student ID here in the body, in student ID. Okay, so I guess that should do it for the Refit part. Once again, we are in the backend for frontend, so this backend for frontend will just so basically Refit will create an HTTP client, and I will use the HTTP client to just get student, and the HTTP client or Refit will know exactly how to make the call based on the interface that I have defined here. That's pretty much straightforward. Now we have the student endpoints, and once again, right now, since the app is still fairly simple, this backend for frontend, what it does, it kind of like simply takes a request and it proxies it to the corresponding student service to get that information. But as you will see probably in further streams, where kind of like the application will get more and complicated, these endpoints in the backend for frontend will not just call one endpoint. They will aggregate information probably from different services. They will probably, I don't know, send or put messages on some buses, or I don't know, that there will be different stuff happening here. So that's why even if it seems right now to be something like overhead, when you go for a microservices project, I usually always have by default also the backend for frontend. And I have a backend for frontend for each type of frontend. Like if you have a web frontend, I have a backend for frontend for that. If I have also a mobile application, I'll have a different backend for frontend for that mobile application. Now, I'm aware that this pattern with the backend for frontend could be implemented maybe using different type of reverse proxies or other type of features like maybe YARP, but I like to have dedicated services because it allows me to have like the freedom to evolve them the way that the application needs and not to stuck on some, I don't know, limitations of the library that I'm using. So definitely, and I'm also aware that not everybody is a fan of this backend for frontend, so I'm aware that there are pros, that are cons, but what I have found for now in the projects is that kind of like having this backend for frontends is actually a good idea and helps a lot to make sure that everything is kind of like, you know, what is responsible for what. Okay, so now then we have this students map delete, students map get, student ID, async. So here we'll also implement this with a method, private async by result get student details. Here I will have iStudents API client, and int student ID, and here I will have this var result equals await dot client get student details async student ID. Obviously this might have an HTTP exception, so you have to check against that and then return different things. Here we're just optimizing for the happy path, let's say, and then we just return the result. And since this result is already a student details, because that's what we define in the interface, I can simply return it. Or why? What's the problem here? Here, instance members. Obviously, yes. Everything is static. I'm also aware that's not optimal. But since we are using here minimal endpoints, yeah. I mean, this is definitely an option there, and we'll kind of like use it. Okay, so here we have an async, and here we get in student ID and in student API, and here we have, let's just, I don't know, maybe move it like this. Let's have this on the line. So we have here from service iStudent API and client, and in student ID. Here we get student details, but that should throw an error. Why don't I have a compilation message here? Get student details, because I'm not calling the right one. Do I have to get student details? That's strange. Because it's not on the client. Oh my god, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? I think it's like this, yeah. Okay, I see here, I like to have a backend for frontend, way more control. Yeah, that's also my primary reason. Like, I know that all the things are shiny, like the YARP or I don't know, whatever other type of stuff you see in videos. They are kind of like cool, but they introduce always limitations. And at the beginning you might not be aware of them, or you might not see them, but when they come, then your app will already be too complex to have an easy kind of like refactor. So yeah. Okay, so now we have this map get. that gets student by ID, and it executes this get student details, which in turn returns the response that we get from our. Okay, so I guess we are okay with that. Now we will need to move to the web part, but in the web part, once again, we need, for now they are the same models, but we will simply just reuse them. So it's basically these models. So we are in the web right now. No, we are not. This is not the web. This is the web. And here in the web, what do we have here? I think here, yes. Where did we place the student basic info? I think we placed the student basic info once again, yeah, in this file here. No, API models. Now we have a class for the API models. Okay, so we definitely need to place them here. But then we should have placed also the pagination here. We have a model for pagination. But yeah, let's not change it right now because it will kind of like change the namespaces and then everything will get weird. So right now we have this. Let's also implement here this backend for front-end client. Get student ID, student details, get student details async, and then pass in the student ID. So that's it. We have the client. And now I think we can move over to the front-end part. But it's already once again more than 1 hour and a half since the last break. So I think I need to kind of like stand up a little bit. I think I need to stand up a little bit. Let's check how's the subscriber count. It's still the same. So I think that it's probably not that it's probably not feasible that we'll reach 23k and 400 during this stream. But yeah, that's it. Probably will reach during the other stream, the next one. But we'll see then. Okay, guys. I will want to take a break right now. Once again, 10 minutes break. I just really need to stand up a little bit and walk around. But then we'll be back and implement wire everything up together and make sure that we display the student details that we get from our APIs, that we display them in the component that we have already created. So we'll wire everything up together. Probably we will not get to also do the update actions, but we will work on the update actions then in the next streams. So yeah, just for now, let's have a 10 minutes break. Please don't go away. Maybe just to, I don't know, drink some water, also take a walk if you want. But then please be back in 10 minutes. And Ross, I'm about to drive home. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining and have a good drive. Be careful. Drive safe. Okay, so yeah, we'll take this 10 minutes break and then we will be back and wire everything up together, and we'll see that we'll have a working environment where all the details that we see on the student details that we have just created are really taken from the details that we have. So nothing is hard-coded, everything should be taken from there. Then I'll order food and get ready. Cool, that's actually a good plan, ordering food. That's a good plan. So we'll catch up in 10 minutes. Okay, I'm back. Let's check what we have here. Okay, I see there's no messages. Probably you are all on a break. I'm not sure if it took 10 minutes or a little bit longer, but I also needed to go outside a little bit. But now I am back. Let's see. So we still have some viewers. Thank you very much for standing by. That's very, very nice, and I totally appreciate that. Cool. So let's then now. I'm here. Okay, DM. So did you order food? Let's have a round here. So who's still watching? Just say hi. Or say something. Say anything. Kebab and dürüm. Sounds just great. Really sounds great. I'm not joking. It sounds great. Cool. So we are here now. We have implemented this client. Now we can go to our not student list but manage student. So obviously the thing is, within the student list, we have only very few information about the student. So we don't have everything. So that's in from our students list. When we pass in here, we just pass the student ID, and then this smart component, like the parent component, would need to retrieve the data, like student details. So here we'll need to inject the IBFF client. Let's make close all but this. Okay. Learned it. So Jason, I think Jason, you're from Alaska. I'm listening, but unfortunately trying to debug a composite primary key constraint. Oh, okay. That doesn't sound funny. To debug, okay, my company RP systems at the same time. Yeah, that's not fun. I wish you good luck with that. Primary key name of. I think that's basically an advice for Jason. That's what I like to see in the chat. That's what I like to see in the chat. People getting in touch one with the other and sharing ideas. That's what I want to see in the chat. Okay, I see that I saw I don't know at C# Free that he has a lot of cool stuff like jingles and sounds and that he uses when something nice happens or something happens. So I need to kind of like look into how can I set up something like that also for this stream. To make some, I don't know, here I guess maybe a cheering sound would have been nice to have. But I guess I would also need a stream deck for that. Obviously I don't necessarily need it, but yeah, would be nice. Who knows, we'll see. Okay, so the idea is that in this component we will get the so inject. Here we'll get the student with all the information that we actually need for this component. But you see, right now it's not working anymore. So I click here, this one, and it's not working. It's not working. Why does this happen? Using feature students. No, I don't want this one. Smartschool.web. I think it should be in the services. BFF API client. Yeah, this one should be this. And let's just call this client. So here we'll get the student, and then we'll pass the student basically to our header and to our details. Although probably we don't necessarily need to pass the entire student, but we just pass a reference, so yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. So here we need to get the student. Obviously here we need to do that. This component, because we need to think this through a little bit. Here we need to think this through. So this component, which is the student details, that's actually a parent component. So that's a total parent component. So it's rendered by default SSR. Can you try it with using Rider? What exactly? The reason why I'm using VS for this stream, I know Rider had some updates and probably that was fixed. But the reason why I'm using Visual Studio is because kind of like previously, in order to get all the Aspire functionality, kind of like, yeah, you needed to rely also on Visual Studio a little bit, even though theoretically once you set everything up, then you can also use it in Rider, and if you run it, it should still run okay. But yeah, when you want to kind of like add the new project to Aspire orchestration and things, then things are easier in Visual Studio. So that's why I kind of like use Visual Studio for this one. But maybe we should switch over to Rider. Okay, I texted this for how to resolve the reference. Okay. And it does automatically resolve it? Really? Without pressing Alt? Yes, Alt and Enter? Because I remember I always have to press Alt and Enter to resolve the reference. Yeah, however. Okay, so the idea is that here we need to get the student. Where the student details actually. So, protected, override, async task on initialized async, var student equals wait client get student details. What's the problem with you? How doesn't it? Man, I just implemented it. I think it's named like this. Yep. Here it has this. Okay. Here we get the student ID and we get back the student details. Now we also need here, I think this can be actually private, although we need to pass it to somebody else. So why did it mess up my indenting here? I don't like that. So let's also make this public student details. That's set equals new. But no, let's have it null. Okay, let's make it nullable then. Okay, and then here we actually also need stream rendering. So where is the component with stream rendering? Here is the student list, I guess. Attribute stream rendering equals true. Where were we? Student details. Yep. Now what we'll do here is in the authorized, if student is null, then loading else. Obviously, I also need to type this correctly. Where is this? I want to format. Okay. Have you ever tried using Neo-Vim as your code editor? No. I guess everything that has Vim in it, I am too afraid to try it. So yeah, that's I don't say it's not good or so, but it's like I have nightmares with Vim. Like, how do you even exit Vim? Yeah, indeed. Exit Vim challenge. Yeah, that's my point. So everything that contains Vim in the name, I'm too afraid to use it. So that's the reason. So while the student is null, but why doesn't it see it? No, it's okay. It should be okay. while the student is null, we'll have loading, then we get the student, we set the student, but actually we can say here we don't need this variable. We can say directly student, or what's the problem with this? Because this is nullable and this cannot implicitly convert type. Student details. But why? Oh my god, because this is the exact same name as the component. That's wrong. No, we need to find another name. Emacs is better than Vim. Sorry for the unrelated topic. Okay, so Emacs, yeah. I think I used Emacs once for searching in very large CSV file. That's the only time I actually used Emacs. You can remove nullable on student and do null. No, the problem is not because it's declared as nullable. The problem is the student details is also the name of the component. And right now here, this one it assumes is the component class. But no, I want the student details, that's the other one. So we need to call it differently. No, we can't call it differently. We need to fully qualify that. We need to fully qualify the name. So it would be, that's not optimal. Web services. I think it's here. Yep, and now it works. So now that it's fully qualified, theoretically I could do this as a using and static somehow, but I'm not accustomed to do that. So I'll just use the fully qualified name here, because this student details is an ambiguity, because my component is also called student details, and it means that it also has a class. Okay, so RAM, totally understand. I used to be the same, but once I got used to Vim, everything else is weird. Okay, I can totally get that. And how is it developing .NET with Vim, with NeoVim? Is this faster, or what are actually the benefits for you? Okay, so then when we get the student, we get kind of like all the information that we need. Now the only thing is that we need to pass him to the student header. So let's go to the header. So here we'll have a parameter. Now since this is student details header, so it's not student details, the component name, we will be able to use the name student details and refer to the student details that we have basically in the API client. But in the other component, that was kind of like not possible. So public student details. Now this won't be nullable here in this case because you need to provide it. So student details, let's call it just student. Okay. What's the problem here with you? Non-nullable property student must contain a non-null value when exiting the constructor. Okay. I assume we still need to make it nullable so that it doesn't complain right now. The language server protocol LSP is pretty good to pure C# code, but for Blazor not so much, unfortunately. Okay, that's a nice share. Thank you very much. Okay, so now that we have the student in our student header, let's take a look. Wherever do we need to have something? Here, image source. For the image source, right now we have this placeholder, so we'll keep it like this. That's actually the first name and the last name of the student. So it would be student dot first name. Why doesn't it see the student? No, because it's still the wrong one. It's still the wrong one because it sees the parent component name first. And yeah, let's fully qualify it also. So this would be a student first name. But yeah, let's say that it will not be nullable when the component is initialized, because I know it will not be nullable because I will pass a student. If I don't have a student, then I will probably not pass it, or I return a not found, or I won't show the UI theoretically. But for now, that's it. So we have then a space, and then we have a student last name. Okay, font size, class, font size 30 MB 0, and student. Why do I have this? Because if we are on this student details page, then obviously that's a student. So I think I'll get rid of. Or yeah, let's keep it. But it's not something. It's something that we can keep hard coded right now. Then student information. I think in the student we actually. I think I leave it like this because we don't have something like student bio or details about a student. That's something that we'll probably add at a certain point. No, we don't have something like that. So yeah, but we leave this. So we'll need basically, that's a mark here. We can implement a new feature at a certain point to also have the possibility. Maybe teachers can add comments or regarding the student that can be displayed here, or I don't know, that there might be a place to do something like that. Then what do we have here? The email address, that's definitely something that we can have. So it's student email. Also, let's say that it's not nullable. Then there's the phone number. But you know what? The thing here is that if null, I would return. I'll do, or no, let's just, but we'll still need to protect it for editor required public request when details students get set. This should do it. Okay. I think I'll change that. Let me. Now, the one thing that I want to change here is that if, for instance, I don't want to get anything here right now, but if the phone number of the student is null, then I actually want to have it as an empty string. But to kind of like not mess things up, I would declare here private. It would be a string. String phone number, but here I can have. No, I don't want to have this null. I can have this as a string.empty. The only thing is that I want to, if student dot phone number is not null, phone number, student phone number. Okay, and let's say that this is, I know that I will have a student here. Now what's the problem with this one? Parameters from the parent to render tree. Override this method to if you want. Okay, a task, and what's the problem? Async method lacks await. That's not asynchronous. That's not asynchronous. So yeah, it's then protected override void on initialized. Like that. And now we can go back here and actually set the phone number. So it will be either an empty string if the student doesn't have a phone number, or it will be kind of like the phone number if a student does have one. So that's kind of like it for now. Okay, cool. Now, I think that's all for the header. I think we have all the information that we need for the header. Now we can go over back to the body and take all the details that we need for the body. Now the body, and it contains yeah, a lot of you see here all these buttons, they already have the toggle, the target, because we'll add those models afterwards, but we'll look into that. So right now here we'll need exactly the same thing actually. So here we'll need exactly the same thing. We'll need to have a parameter so let me check. Alternatively, remove on initialized and use get accessor like private string, phone number, student phone number. Yeah, actually. But will it for sure return an empty string if it is null? Will it for sure return a string, an empty string if it is null? That's the question, I guess. I mean, the initialized, that method gets called however, so no matter if you override it or not, but it's called directly on the base component class. So I don't think it's that bad either. Okay, so here we get a student. Here for the student, oh, if phone number is nullable, you can do private string phone number, student phone number. Ah, yeah, okay, yeah, the null conditional, null, oh, it's called null conditional or null closing operator. Yeah, let's do it actually. Yeah, indeed, that was actually a good idea. Thank you very much. I think that was a good idea. Okay, so let's do exactly the same thing, because I think we'll need also the phone number here. Now the email address will not be null because you need to give an email address when you create the user. We have it on the form. And I think we have set it as required, but as I said, we didn't really care about validation here in this project, so I'm probably we didn't validate it. But conceptually, the email address should be there. So you need an email address when you create a student, because you need a way to communicate with the student right away. For instance, when you register the student, you need to send an email, for instance, to log in for the first time and change the password. So definitely you can't create a student. You shouldn't be able to create a student without providing an email address. So the email address will be okay. So it will be for sure there. But the phone number, you can edit it at a later point. So it's not something that's mandatory. But we'll still need the phone number here. Now we have the students, and let's change all the updates that we have here. So here we have a name, here we have student.first name and student.last name. Okay. Okay, I know that this one will be okay. Then we have the email. Student.email. That's just a button here. Then relatives. Here we actually don't even display anything for now. We will kind of like have to add a table or something like it to display the relatives, but I guess we'll take care about this when we'll implement the adding relatives feature. Doesn't really make sense to lose a lot of time right now. Here there's another button, and then we have the address part. So here is the address part of it. Now the address can be null. So the address itself can be null. Editor required basically means when you call the component, it's required to set the parameter of it. The required keyword will remove the nullable warning saying you for sure to know it's yeah, you can use required keyword also in components. Yeah, you're definitely right with. So now I'm thinking about the address, because the address itself can be null, but once we have an address, so if it's not null, then we will for sure have a street, a zip code, and a city. So we'll for sure have those. So how do we handle that? I think we can do it like this, because here we have to actually compose things. But I think we can use something similar to this. So we have a private string and the term, let's say street and number, student, so I know for sure that we will have a student. No, okay, I think here we'll need, I think here there will be a little bit more complicated because we need to check. Because we need to check the address of if it's null, but in the end we need to calculate this a little bit differently. But you know what? Private string get okay, and here we can kind of like if street address equals null, then I will return a string empty, but else I will return student address dot the street name as just street. Actually, I think I'll use an interpolated string here right now. Student address street, then student address street number. Okay, and then I'll just call this method here. What's the problem here? Yes, I want to invoke a method, obviously, but then okay, I'll need to do it like this. Okay, so that will give me the address. Now the zip code, it's exactly the same thing. Obviously, guys, as I said, this is kind of like make it work right now, so I'm probably it's not the best way to do things, but yeah, let's have them together. What's the problem with this one? I called it postal code here. Okay. So get zip and city. Okay. Then basically we'll just have one paragraph. And but you know what? Eventually let's just write city here, and then get zip code and city. Okay, and that should display my zip code and city. So now basically I should have on this profile page all that information, except obviously for the relatives. that I don't have available right now, but we'll work on that when we'll work on the managing relatives functionality. So that would be something else. So I guess now we are ready to test. Obviously we don't have, it's not obviously because it's not a good thing, but we don't have unit tests, so we test in production. Let's say we just run the application and test if it works. However, unit test would not help to understand if the end-to-end functionality works, because we have different microservices that are involved. We need integration tests for that. Web. Let's go here. Let's go here in students, and now when we click on manage, loading, and still loading, which means that something went wrong, and I guess we have an exception. Object, yeah, typical exception. Where is it? Student. Okay, but why was the student null? Okay, that's obviously not optimal. Now we call this a lot of times probably. Let's go back to the home page and let's place some breakpoints, because it means that something is not right. But you know what? Let's check in. Let's check here to view tracing, or yeah, where is tracing? Tracing traces. Okay, so what is the call? Students. This one was the call. Get it returns 200. Okay. Strange. We don't have an exception here. So why was that null? Okay, let's just place some breakpoints. I think here in where we are in the header, I guess. So student first name, student last name. So it seems that student was null, but why was the student null? I think I know. Oh my god, am I stupid? Because I have added the parameters, but I haven't wired them up. So I don't think I have wired them up. So we are in the student details. No, we haven't. So student equals student. We haven't passed in those. No, I guess here the same thing. So this is why. Stupid. Yeah, let's try it again. So now it should work. Because I see that all the HTTP requests between all the services, they went well. So that was not the problem. But I just forgot to wire these components through those parameters. So I was just not passing the student parameters. And obviously then the student was null, and obviously then we had this problem. Cool, so then we have here students and manage. And yes, here we have useful information about the student. Here Karen, the email address, here's the name, personal information, the email address, phone number. So we don't have a phone number, so we don't see it. Oh, that's not nice. I was thinking that it would kind of like call those functions, but instead it kind of like just use them as a string. So obviously that's not what we wanted to have. That's not what we wanted to have. That's why editor required this good parameter. Yes. Definitely I agree with you with this. Definitely I agree with you. Okay, let's... So how do we do this right now? So it's basically for the address within the student details body. It seems it kind of like it displays the name of this, but it's kind of like this should invoke the function. So why it doesn't invoke it? It invokes it, but it returns void. Or no, it returns string. It doesn't simply use the string. Okay. You know what I will do? Now, if you call it this way, kind of like you need this. But if you want to not use the parentheses, then you should have something like this, I guess. But then I had this warning that I didn't 100% understand. Converting method group to non-delegate type object. Did you intend to invoke a method? This transforming this won't invoke the method itself. You know what? I'll do it the ugly way right now. Uninitialized. Private string. You mean this one should be required, I guess, no? DM. Okay, then what we have for address? We have address, street, get street and number. No, that doesn't really help. I guess here I can do. Get address and number. String zip code and city, get zip code and city. Okay, let me try it like this. Street number. And then zip code and city. Okay. You're not invoking the method, you're passing an entire method. No, but with get address and numbers, I'll check this. Oh. I remember that you couldn't just simply invoke methods like this in components. That's what I remembered. So let's try it. So web, students, manage. Yep, it works. So it works. So you were right. Thank you very much. I don't know why I remember that you cannot simply invoke methods like that. You need to kind of like have them in a lambda. I don't know why. No, you need to do this when you want to pass parameters, I think, to the methods. But those were kind of like void, so you didn't have to pass anything. So yeah, basically now it works. So for the address, we don't have an address. That's why we have this update. And I guess the next stream, that's the very first thing that we will start to work with, because we don't have an address. And the very way to kind of like create or bring an address into the system for the student is by clicking this update button, which right now doesn't do anything. But next time we'll implement the model, it will open a model where you will have to specify basically all the address. Yes, it did work. The fact that we don't see data is a good thing, because the address is null. Students in the system don't have addresses right now. So the address for the student is always null right now. So the fact that we don't see data, it means that we display the empty string. So that's correct. That's correct. Next time, we'll be adding addresses through this update or manage or update address, whatever we'll call this. And then we will check again and we'll see. But for now, the fact that we have only street and city means that it kind of like works, because address is null. We don't have addresses right now. Cool, so we will start to work on this next time, then we will work on this, and then we'll try to understand this concept of relatives. Now the concept of relatives will be a little bit more complicated, so I really didn't think about it 100%, but the thing is that we will also have a dedicated service for managing parents or relatives. because they will be totally distinct entities in the system with a lot of different functionalities. They have different roles, but here in the context of the student, we just want to display a name and a relationship type. But in the other parts of the applications, we might want to have information about, I don't know, payments or sending invoices or really a lot of things. So that's why we'll have to probably bring into place or into the mix also this concept of parents. Like, yeah, we'll need to add a parents here or relatives. And yeah, that would actually be a good thing, because that will also mean that we will need to create some communication between services. So we'll probably go into something like RabbitMQ or maybe Azure Service Bus. So Gabriel, I was thinking, couldn't you implement some logic that will track changes of different properties and at the end to update only the ones that have changed? Not exactly sure at what you are referring to, but I guess we can get to this discussion. Let me just close everything. Let me check the subscribers. So well, we are kind of short, but yeah, that's it, happens. I tried, and I know you also tried your best. But probably having this stream on Wednesday was not the best idea, but it was the day when I could do it. You can definitely update only the ones that are changed using EF Core. But that's exactly what we will do, actually. Because you will see when we implement the updates, they are very, very specific, and we won't update the entire. We update only the parts that get updated. So that's the reason why we have this type of UI. So updates will be very, very granular. It gets messy when you're updating aggregates. Yeah, that's the case if you want to have aggregates. But also if you want to update aggregates, kind of like it's more or less the same thing. That's the reason why I don't like to go full domain-driven design usually. So from my point of view, if you want to go full domain-driven design, then the best way to do is if you're also using event sourcing, because in event sourcing you kind of like are obliged to have different read models and different write models, and you can then kind of like it definitely makes a better sense. But that's why we don't use aggregates or the entire concept of aggregate roots in this application. Yeah, DDD, yeah, there are nice tactics there. So obviously I'm using a lot of the concepts from DDD, but from my point of view, to go full DDD, like the whole DDD theory that's in Eric Evans' books and everything that followed, well, that's kind of like, from my point of view, that requires more than kind of like software development. It's even kind of like something that goes beyond that. It's the way that the project is organized, it's the way that the business is organized, it's the way that the business interacts with the technical team, and yeah, there are really a lot of other things. Cool. Okay, so I think that this would be a wrap for today, and I think this is the longest stream ever for me. It's kind of like almost 4 hours. Although I think the previous one was also pretty long, I think it was not as long as this one. I think, at least, so I'm not sure. But it was definitely worth, and it was worth because of you guys that basically got very engaged and you were active in the chat. And yeah, that's really, really cool. I really enjoyed that, and I really, those 4 hours just passed by and I didn't even realize that. So thank you very, very, very much for being part of this. And the next stream will probably be Sunday or Monday next week, but I can't promise right now. But Sunday or Monday will, although it will be difficult. It could be also on Tuesday. It's a little bit tricky next week because we kind of like have a visit on Monday at the company from kind of like, well, management and stuff like that, and probably it will be a very busy day. Probably we'll have dinner afterwards, so probably I won't get to stream. And Sunday, well, Sunday probably well, I'll go to visit my parents, or yeah, but then Tuesday probably will be a good day for streaming. So DM, I enjoyed to try for stream. Oh, thank you for your stream. Okay, you're welcome. Definitely. So definitely please keep an eye on the channel. I will create and schedule the stream once I know exactly when I will do it, but most probably, let's say most probably, it will be next Tuesday, and it will start at 7 p.m. no 6 p.m. CET. So please calculate in your time zone. So CET is Central European Time, 6 p.m. CET on Tuesday. Most probably that will be the day and the time when we'll have the next stream. Also, yeah, basically that's kind of it. Like it. Really, thank you very much. Stay safe, keep coding, try to be happy, and we'll catch up then in 1 week from now. So bye.